This boyfriend finally snapped. His girlfriend's friends kept bringing up graphic details about her past in a sex group where she was offered to new people, and they did it right in front of his family. It got so bad that his sister was horrified and literally fled to a hotel to get away from them. So he looked his girlfriend in the eye and told her, "The one thing you can never take back," open quote, "you are not wife material," close quote. Was he justified? Or did he just destroy his relationship over the past? And that is just the start, because we also have a woman with a serious kidney condition whose family demanded she cook two separate dinners because they didn't like her life-saving diet. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to AITA Chronicles, where we break down the wildest, messiest, and most unhinged Reddit stories every single day. If you love drama, impossible moral dilemmas, and checking people's entitlement, you are definitely in the right place. Our goal is 10K subscribers, and every single one of you watching helps us get closer to that milestone. So please, hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss the tea, and let's jump right into today's chaos. Am the asshole for telling my girlfriend she isn't wife material because she keeps associating with her friends. All right, folks, buckle the hell up because we're about to dive into what is quite possibly one of the messiest, most uncomfortable, and absolutely bonkers relationship situations I've seen in a hot minute. And when I say this one's a dumpster fire, I mean we're talking full-blown four-alarm blaze with the fire department calling for backup kind of situation. So our writer has been dating his girlfriend for 3 years, 3 whole years. They're living together. They're monogamous. They've had the talk about being exclusive and serious. Everything should be peachy, right? Our writer even says multiple times, and I mean multiple times, like he's trying to convince himself that he doesn't care about his girlfriend's past, doesn't care about body count, doesn't care about her previous relationships. All that stuff is in the rearview mirror. Cool, cool, cool. Mature, healthy. I'm here for it. Except, and this is a massive except, his girlfriend has these friends, these absolute nightmare friends who apparently think it's totally normal and completely acceptable to constantly, repeatedly bring up her sexual past. And we're not talking casual mentions here and there. We're talking graphic details. We're talking stories that would make a sailor blush. We're talking the kind of oversharing that makes everyone in earshot want to crawl out of their skin and find a new body to inhabit. And here's where it gets really spicy. Apparently, when the girlfriend was part of their sex group, yes, you read that correctly, sex group, they would offer her to new people. I'm sorry, what now? Offer her to new people, like she was a goddamn welcome basket at a sex cult meet and greet. Now, look, I'm not here to kink shame. People can do whatever they want with their bodies as long as everyone's consenting adults. You want to be part of a sex group? Go off. Live your truth. Have fun. Stay safe. But there's a massive difference between having an adventurous past and allowing your current friends to constantly weaponize that past against your current relationship. Because let's be crystal clear about what's happening here. These friends are absolutely 100%, without a doubt, trying to sabotage this relationship. They're not reminiscing. They're not being nostalgic. They're actively and deliberately making our writer uncomfortable, making his family uncomfortable, and disrespecting both him and his girlfriend in the process. And the girlfriend, she just lets it happen. She tells them to stop, sure, but she won't actually do anything about it. She won't set real boundaries. She won't cut them off. She won't even ask them to control themselves around our writer's family. Speaking of family, let's talk about what happened with the sister, because this is where things went from uncomfortable to absolutely mortifying. Our writer's sister came to stay with them for a week while she was in town for a friend's wedding. Normal stuff, right? Family visits, catching up, probably some wine and movie nights, wholesome sibling bonding time. Nope, because the girlfriend decided to have her friends over. And these friends, these classy, respectful friends, thought it would be a fantastic idea to tell the sister all about the girlfriend's adventures. The sister is described as very vanilla and was horrified. So horrified that she literally packed up and moved to a hotel for the remaining days of her visit. She was so uncomfortable that she couldn't even stay in their home, and she promised not to tell anyone else in the family. Can we just take a moment to appreciate how absolutely humiliating that must have been? Not just for our writer, but for his sister too. She came to visit her brother and his girlfriend, probably expecting normal host behavior, and instead got an unwanted graphic download of sexual information she had zero interest in hearing. That's not just inappropriate, that's borderline harassment. And you know what makes it even worse? The girlfriend doesn't seem to think this is a big deal. She says her friends can't be controlled. She says neither option, getting them to behave or cutting them off, is possible. I'm sorry, but that's absolute bullshit. These are grown adults, not toddlers having tantrums at Target. They can absolutely control themselves. They choose not to. And the girlfriend choosing to keep them in her life despite their blatant disrespect is a choice she's making. She's choosing them over her relationship. She's choosing their need to embarrass her over her partner's reasonable request for basic respect. Now, here's where our writer made his stand. After the sister incident, he realized this was never going to change unless he did something. So he had a conversation with his girlfriend. He told her she needed to either control her friends or cut them off. Pretty reasonable request, right? She said neither option was possible. So he told her that meant marriage was off the table. He wasn't going to have these people talking about her past with his family and friends at weddings, family gatherings, holidays. He wasn't willing to sign up for a lifetime of this disrespect. And here's the thing. He explicitly says he didn't give her an ultimatum. He accepted her choice to keep the friends and not control them, and then he made his decision based on that. No marriage. That's not an ultimatum. That's called consequences. But of course, now she's pissed. She's saying he gave her an ultimatum and that it was rude of him to ask her friends to behave. Rude to ask grown adults to behave appropriately. Let that sink in for a hot second. The comments on this post are absolutely brutal, and I am here for every single one of them. Commenter u/responsible parrot nailed it right out the gate. Open quote. It's hard to leave something in the past if people keep bringing it back to the present. Almost no one wants to constantly hear about their partner banging other people. It's really disrespectful for her friends to keep bringing it up and for her to allow it. Probably a deal breaker. Close quote. Exactly. The past is only the past if you leave it there. But these friends keep dragging it into the present, kicking and screaming, making sure everyone knows all the sordid details. Then commenter u/eobart shared their own nightmare story. Open quote. I had this happen to me. I was hanging out with a girl I liked, and her friends kept bringing up how she used to be known as the blowjob queen, how she was so well known that random people would just come by her house for blowies. Close quote. The blowjob queen. Random people just showing up at her house. I cannot. I simply cannot. And you know what this commenter said? Open quote. I don't care about someone's past, but getting it thrown in your face like that and her seemingly okay with the conversation really killed the vibe for me. Close quote. Killed the vibe. That's putting it mildly, my dude. That's like saying the Titanic had a minor leak. Commenter use long dick of the law dropped a perfect Clerks reference. Open quote. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks. In a row? Close quote. I'm deceased. If you don't get this reference, go watch Clerks right now. But the point stands. There's a difference between having a past and having your past paraded around like a float in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Now let's talk about what everyone in the comments is picking up on. These friends are actively trying to break them up. Commenter Value observed, open quote, I'm wondering if it isn't agenda-driven with the goal of splitting them up to get her back in the streets with them. Close quote. And commenter u/1entertainer-4650 simply replied, open quote, exactly what I was thinking. Close quote. Because here's the thing. If these were real friends, they would respect her current relationship. They would want her to be happy. They would understand that constantly bringing up her sexual past to her partner and his family is not okay. But they don't do any of that. They keep pushing, keep oversharing, keep making everyone uncomfortable. Why? Because they want their toy back. They want their offering to return to the group. They miss having someone they could pimp out to newcomers. Yes, I said pimp because that's exactly what offering her to new people sounds like. Commenter u/rambling Mary absolutely nailed it. Open quote. Exactly. The girlfriend's past is not the problem. The fact that her friends are sexually harassing the girlfriend, writer's sister, and anyone else they decide to give unwanted sexual details to is the problem. Close quote. Sexual harassment. That's what this is. When you force sexual information on people who don't want to hear it, who haven't consented to that conversation, that's harassment. The girlfriend is being harassed. The writer is being harassed. The poor sister was harassed so badly she had to flee to a hotel. Several commenters brought up a really disturbing point about the nature of the girlfriend's relationship with these friends. Commenter u/Edinor said, open quote, I hope I don't sound judgy, but if I understand correctly, the writer, these people basically pimped her out to newcomers to their group. He says they offered her to newcomers. That to me already indicates a weird relationship with these friends where they control her and she is submissive to them. If she accepted that, it's not too weird that she can't set boundaries with them. Close quote. This is dark. And honestly, it tracks because a healthy Dom-sub relationship requires consent and boundaries. And these friends clearly don't respect boundaries. They're told to stop talking about this stuff, and they don't. The girlfriend asks them to stop, and they don't. That's not a consensual dynamic. That's control and manipulation. Commenter U Conscious Owl 6162 took it even further. Open quote. There is also a good chance that they will pimp her out again when there are low points in her and writer's relationship. I would count on it. Close quote. Yikes. But also, probably not wrong. If the girlfriend is too weak to set boundaries with them now, what happens when she and our writer have a fight? What happens when she's vulnerable and sad and these friends swoop in with their "you don't need him, come party with us" energy? Commenter U Detective Clear 6734 added, open quote, it's what they're working towards. They embarrass her and put her down in front of others to make her compliant. Once she's finally single again, they can use her more. Very shitty. Close quote, the psychological manipulation here is real. By constantly bringing up her past, especially in front of people who might judge her for it, they're reinforcing the idea that she's not good enough for a normal relationship, that she should be grateful they accept her, that she belongs with them, not with some vanilla guy who actually wants to marry her and build a future. It's sick, it's twisted, and the girlfriend can't see it. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room that several commenters brought up. Does our writer actually not care about her past? Commenter u/Reddit is J went off. Open quote, I will never understand this concept Redditors live and die on, which is your past doesn't matter. No, man, the past is relevant. It's so weird how this one thing has some special cutout where we're supposed to completely ignore it, not infer anything from it, and be totally accepting of it. Sorry, if you lived that kind of life, it says a lot about who you are. Just as much if someone used to be a junkie. Not saying they are bad people, but to me, they are very unlikely to be someone I can trust, much less be compatible with. So it's not even worth the attempt. Close quote. Harsh, but also kind of fair. Like, people want to act like the past exists in a vacuum, but it doesn't. The choices we make, the things we do, they shape who we become. And while people can change, they don't always. And it's okay to have preferences about who you want to be with long term. Commenter u/plenty maybe -9817, who identifies as a woman and feminist, added, open quote, I'm a woman and a feminist, and I completely agree here. People are allowed to be uncomfortable. Obviously, the past matters. Everyone agrees that it matters if there was anything remotely non-consensual, rightfully so. I'm straight and married for a long time, but I would not have considered dating someone who had consensually fucked 200 strippers. I'm allowed to feel disgusted by that and make a decision based on that. It's completely unrealistic to expect otherwise. Everyone gets to draw their own line. Close quote. Thank you. It's not about shaming people for their choices. It's about compatibility. It's about values. It's about what you're comfortable with in a partner. And everyone gets to have their own standards. But here's the thing. Our writer says he doesn't care about her past multiple times. He really emphasizes this, and I actually believe him. I don't think he cares that she was part of a sex group or that she had a wild past. What he cares about is that it won't stay in the past. What he cares about is the constant disrespect from her friends. What he cares about is that his girlfriend won't protect their relationship. And that's the real issue. Commenter you, Softy Eve 2143 put it perfectly. Open quote, yep. If they keep bringing up the past and she won't set boundaries, it's totally normal to see that as a deal breaker. Close quote. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about sex or body count or adventurous pasts. It's about respect. It's about boundaries. It's about whether the girlfriend values her relationship enough to protect it. And based on her refusal to do anything about her friends, the answer is no, she doesn't. Several commenters pointed out the incredibly creepy, possessive vibe these friends have. Commenter u/lu/chemical-4982 said, open quote, let me just say there is nothing rude or unfair about you insisting that the people in your girlfriend's life behave by treating you and your relationship with respect. She needs therapy if she is so blasé about letting this group of people walk all over her and shit on you and your relationship. She has no self-respect or self-esteem. Involving your sister in their beefs really crossed a huge line. Close quote. The therapy comment is real because a person with healthy self-esteem doesn't let their friends constantly embarrass them. A person with respect doesn't allow people to treat their partner like garbage. The fact that the girlfriend is so passive about all of this suggests some deeper issues. Commenter Uslad Hanor expanded on this. Open quote, I hope I don't sound too judgy, but if I understand correctly, the writer, these people basically pimped her out to newcomers to their group. He says they offered her to newcomers. That to me already indicates a weird relationship with these friends, where they control her and she is submissive to them. If she accepted that, it's not too weird that she can't set boundaries with them. Close quote. And then drop this bomb, open quote. Yeah, she might have been consenting. I would need to know more about their dynamics and all. But in my experience, healthy sub-dom relationships are sub-dom in the bedroom, not outside of it. Outside of sexual activities, everyone is a person on equal standing. These friends do not respect her relationship, do not respect the BF or his family and the boundaries they set. She doesn't respect herself and set healthy boundaries either. So rather than a normal, healthy BDSM relationship, this feels more like an abusive group exploiting the lack of self-esteem of a woman for their own pleasure. Close quote. Abusive, that's the word. Because healthy BDSM requires consent, communication, and respect, and there's no respect here. These friends are treating the girlfriend like property they used to own and want back. Commenter you, the Lost Destroyer, asked the question we're all thinking, open quote, yeah, but if that's the case and she is submissive to them, how would that ever garner a relationship based on trust? What if they decided to just start pimping her out again? Would she say no now, or is she still submissive to her friends? I would have zero trust in the faithfulness of this woman. Close quote. Zero trust. And honestly, fair. If she can't even set the boundary of don't talk about my sex life to my boyfriend's family, what other boundaries is she incapable of setting? Now let's talk about the judgment our writer made, that she's not wife material. The title of this post is, Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend she isn't wife material because she keeps associating with her friends? And look, that phrase, wife material, is going to rub some people the wrong way. It's got some sexist connotations, some purity culture vibes, some judgy energy. I get it, but context matters. And in context, he's not saying she's not wife material because of her sexual past. He's saying she's not wife material because she won't protect their relationship, because she won't set boundaries, because she's allowing people to disrespect him and his family. And you know what? He's right. Wife material isn't about being a virgin or being pure or any of that nonsense. Wife material or spouse material, let's be inclusive here, is about being someone who's ready and willing to prioritize your partnership. It's about being someone who will have your back. It's about being someone who will set boundaries with other people to protect your relationship. The girlfriend ain't doing any of that. Commenter You I Love Wally kept it simple. Open quote, you are incompatible. Break up and move on. Close quote. And then our writer responded, open quote, we probably will. Close quote, we probably will. Not we're working on it. Not we're going to try counseling. Not I'm hoping she'll change her mind. Just, yeah, probably going to break up, which honestly good because this relationship is doomed. Commenter, you fluid actuary 1729 gave him permission. Open quote, honey, this is your life. There are so many women out there who, while not inexperienced, will not deliberately throw their past in your face. Guaranteed. Close quote. Yes, there are millions of women out there who have had adventurous pasts, but who also understand basic respect and boundaries. Having a sexual history doesn't mean you have to let toxic friends weaponize it against your current partner. Several commenters pointed out the long-term implications of staying with someone like this. Commenter U Martinis and Murder dropped this truth bomb. Open quote. Can you imagine one of her dumpster fire sex cult friends making a toast or loudly sharing a story about her adventures at their wedding? I mean, I'm all for adults doing what they want as long as it is safe, sane, and consensual. These people seem to blur the line quite a bit. Sharing someone's sexual past without their consent or permission is a major violation. Close quote, wedding toasts. Oh my God. Can you imagine? You're at your wedding, your family is there, your coworkers, your grandmother, and one of these friends gets up to make a speech and starts talking about the time they offered the bride to a newcomer. I would simply perish. I would cease to exist. I would evaporate on the spot. Commenter U, Mr. Francesco, took it even further. Open quote, these idiots will tell the same bullshit to your future children too. Close quote. Children. Imagine having kids with this woman and her friends telling your 10-year-old about mommy's wild sex group days. Imagine the PTA meetings. Imagine trying to explain to your kids' friends' parents why Aunt Random is talking about orgies at the birthday party. Nope. Absolutely not. Hard pass. Now let's talk about what nobody seems to be discussing. What the hell is our writer still doing in this relationship? Because here's the thing. He's already decided she's not wife material. He's already said marriage is off the table. He's already planning to break up, probably. So why is he still there? Why is he still living with her? Why is he still subjecting himself to this nonsense? Commenter U Slyest Titties asked, open quote, "Enta, but why ta for not leaving? Why bother with a relationship you're not 100% okay with? Waste of time and emotions, IMO." Close quote. Thank you. Like, I understand wanting to try to work things out, but our writer has already tried. He asked her to set boundaries. She refused. He gave her a choice. She made it. The relationship is effectively over. They're just still living together? Why? And here's where it gets really interesting. Commenter Usly Martinez and Murder dug into our writer's comment history and found this gem. Open quote, oh, we know why he isn't just ending things. He has made it clear she isn't what he considers wife material, but she is wild in bed. He says in the comments he is with her for sex and shared expenses. Yikes. Close quote. For sex and shared expenses. I'm sorry, what? So our writer is out here making this big moral stand about respect and boundaries in marriage, but he's actually just staying with her because the sex is good and she helps pay rent. That's not great, my dude. That's actually kind of using her. If you've already decided there's no future, if you've already decided she's not wife material, then you're just wasting her time and yours. You're keeping her in a dead-end relationship while she could be out finding someone who actually wants to marry her and who will also tell her friends to shut the hell up. This changes the dynamic significantly because now it's not just about the girlfriend being unable to set boundaries. It's also about our writer stringing her along in a relationship he's already mentally checked out of. Commenter U Sourdough Skorsk S8N called this out. Open quote, I mean, you say in this post you don't care about 4 times, but clearly you do. Just stop dating her, move back to the safe part of town, be done with her and her freaked out friends. Close quote. Clearly you do care. Because if you truly didn't care about her past, you wouldn't be using the phrase wife material. You wouldn't be staying with her just for sex and rent money. You wouldn't be in this weird limbo where you're together but planning to break up. Let's also talk about something our writer mentions in passing. He moved from a much safer area to live with her because she hates leaving our area of the city. Red flag? Maybe. It suggests she's not willing to compromise or make changes. She wants what she wants, where she wants it, and everyone else has to adapt. Our writer gave up his safer neighborhood for her. What has she given up for him? Based on this post? Absolutely nothing. Commenter Uchipio5 asks some really important questions. Open quote. Does she value herself? Is she okay with their behavior? Close quote. Because that's the heart of it, isn't it? A person who values themselves doesn't let their friends constantly embarrass and humiliate them. A person who values their relationship doesn't allow their friends to disrespect their partner. The girlfriend's inability to set boundaries suggests she doesn't value herself or the relationship, and you can't build a future with someone who doesn't value themselves. Several commenters suggested that the girlfriend might have been trafficked or is being abused. Commenter u/catnaps for Lady Dax said, open quote, put that on. Way it sounds almost like she was groomed and then trafficked. An adult can be groomed. It works on anyone with a power dynamic difference. If this group was the popular kids, they might have something like frat initiation. If she's even a little like me, I don't make friends easily. At times, I did many things to keep around people who didn't actually give a rat's ass about me. Close quote. This is a really important perspective because offering her to newcomers doesn't sound consensual. It sounds coercive. It sounds like she was in a vulnerable position and these people took advantage. And if that's the case, then these friends are abusers who are trying to get their victim back. They're trying to isolate her from healthy relationships by sabotaging them. They're trying to convince her she's not worthy of real love, so she'll come back to them. If that's what's happening, then the girlfriend needs serious therapy and support, not judgment. But here's the thing. Our writer can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And based on her refusal to even try to set boundaries, she's not ready to be saved. Commenter u/beardedmonkey gave some really thoughtful advice. Open quote. If this is real, then please, before you break up, as Reddit loves to advise, please let her read this. Let her read how you feel about this. Maybe even write it all down again, separately, share it with her. Don't tell her, let her read it uninterrupted. It prevents arguments and might help her see your point. Then show her some of these comments. Maybe they can make her reflect on her behavior and, frankly, on her friends. Because as some comments said, it almost sounds like the friends are doing this on purpose to get her back. If you just break up like this, you might be doing exactly what they want and what is really bad for your GF. Close quote. This is actually really good advice. If our writer genuinely cares about this woman and not just the sex and shared expenses, then he should try one more time to help her see what's happening. Show her this thread. Show her the comments about abuse and manipulation. Show her that hundreds of strangers can see that her friends are toxic and trying to sabotage her happiness. And then if she still won't do anything, walk away knowing you tried. But honestly, I don't think it's going to work. Because the girlfriend has already made her choice. She's chosen these friends over the relationship. She's chosen comfort over growth. She's chosen the familiar toxicity over the unknown of standing up for herself. Commenter Usbadika broke it down perfectly. Open quote. In other words, your girlfriend is absolutely fine with her past sex life being paraded and brought up at any and every opportunity by her friends. She was offered to new folk at the sex club. I'm not into that scene. But it sounds like your girlfriend was their submissive, inferior, free use girl. And the friends like to remind her of that every chance they get, which means your girlfriend is, in fact, not out of that world, and it isn't in her past at all, because she's still the submissive little slave they see her as. And degrading and shaming fits into that. And she's fine with it. Close quote. She's fine with it. That's the bottom line. If she wasn't fine with it, she would stop it. The fact that she won't tells you everything you need to know. Now let's talk about the verdict, because I am ready to lay down some Judge Judy realness. Is our writer the asshole? Hell no. Not even a little bit. But also, kind of yes? Let me explain. For the situation as presented, asking his girlfriend to set boundaries with her disrespectful friends who constantly bring up her sexual past in front of him and his family, he is 100% not the asshole. That's a completely reasonable request. That's basic relationship respect. That's the bare minimum of what you should expect from a partner. For telling her that marriage is off the table if she won't address this issue. Not the asshole. He's being honest about his boundaries and his deal breakers. He's not trying to control her or force her to do anything. He's saying, if you choose this, then I choose this, which is fair. For protecting his sister from further harassment by these toxic friends, not the asshole. His sister shouldn't have been subjected to that in the first place. The fact that she was so uncomfortable she had to leave is appalling. But for staying in a relationship he's already checked out of just for sex and shared expenses, kind of the asshole. If you know there's no future, if you've already decided she's not wife material, then staying with her is wasting both of your time. It's using her. It's keeping her from finding someone who actually wants a future with her. For moving to her less safe neighborhood and then complaining about it, slightly the asshole. You chose to do that. Nobody forced you. If you resent it, that's on you. For writing this whole post about how he doesn't care about her past when he clearly does care, based on the wife material comment and staying for sex, the asshole. Just own it, dude. Say, I thought I was okay with her past, but I'm not, and move on. Don't pretend to be this enlightened guy who doesn't judge while simultaneously judging. Overall verdict, not the asshole for the specific situation with the friends, but kind of the asshole for how he's handling the relationship overall. Here's what our writer should do. 1. Make a clean decision. Either commit to trying to work this out, which would require couples therapy and the girlfriend getting individual therapy, or break up. This wishy-washy will probably break up while still living together and having sex is not fair to either of you. 2, if you decide to try one more time, show her this thread. Show her the comments from people in the kink community saying her friends are violating consent. Show her the comments about abuse and manipulation. Give her one more chance to see what's happening and choose differently. 3, if she still won't set boundaries, leave. Don't probably break up. Actually do it. Move out. Move on. Find someone who values themselves and their relationship enough to protect it. 4, stop saying you don't care about her past if you actually do. Be honest with yourself and with her. It's okay to have preferences. It's okay to not want to be with someone whose friends constantly remind you of their sexual history. Just own it instead of pretending to be above it all. 5, recognize that you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. If the girlfriend is being manipulated by these friends, that's tragic, but you can't force her to see it. You can't force her to get help. All you can do is protect yourself and walk away. Now let's address the girlfriend, because while our writer isn't the main asshole here, she's definitely an asshole. The girlfriend is the asshole for allowing her friends to constantly disrespect her partner, allowing her friends to sexually harass her partner's sister, refusing to set any boundaries whatsoever, saying it's rude to ask grown adults to behave appropriately, choosing her toxic friends over her relationship, not valuing herself enough to recognize that these people are not her friends, making her partner move to a less safe neighborhood and then not being willing to compromise on anything else. The friends are the biggest assholes for constantly bringing up the girlfriend's sexual past without consent, deliberately making the boyfriend uncomfortable, sexually harassing the sister, trying to sabotage the relationship, treating the girlfriend like property they used to own, being controlling, manipulative, and possibly abusive, having zero respect for boundaries or consent, despite supposedly being part of the kink community where consent is everything. The sister is not the asshole for being horrified by unwanted sexual information, removing herself from an uncomfortable situation, keeping the information private to protect her brother and his girlfriend. Some people might say the sister is judgy for moving to a hotel, but honestly, she was subjected to graphic sexual stories about her brother's girlfriend by people she just met. That's traumatizing. She has every right to peace out of that situation. Final thoughts. This relationship is doomed, not because of the girlfriend's past, but because of her present. She's not willing or able to protect the relationship. She's not willing or able to set boundaries. She values these toxic friends more than she values her partner. Our writer needs to stop stringing this along and make a clean break. The girlfriend needs serious therapy to understand why she's allowing herself to be controlled and disrespected by these people. And the friends need to be cut off completely because they're toxic, manipulative, and possibly abusive. To everyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, your partner's past is one thing. How they handle that past in the present is another. It's okay to date someone with a colorful history. It's not okay to be with someone who lets that history be weaponized against you. It's not okay to be with someone who won't set boundaries. It's not okay to be with someone who values toxic friendships over your relationship. And if you're the person with the colorful past and the toxic friends, listen to your partner. If they're telling you that your friends are being disrespectful, believe them. If they're asking you to set boundaries, do it. Real friends support your happiness and respect your relationship. People who constantly try to embarrass you and make your partner uncomfortable are not your friends, no matter how long you've known them. Our writer is not the asshole for asking for basic respect. He is kind of the asshole for staying in a dead-end relationship just for sex and shared expenses. But the girlfriend and her friends, they're the real assholes here. Not the asshole for the boundary setting, but break up already, because this is going nowhere, and you're both wasting time you could be spending with people who actually want the same things you do. And to the girlfriend's friends, you're not clever. Everyone can see exactly what you're doing. You're trying to get your toy back. You're trying to sabotage her relationship because you're bitter that she found something real. You're manipulative, disrespectful, and honestly kind of pathetic. Real friends want their friends to be happy. You just want your submissive plaything back. Grow up. This whole situation is a mess. Our writer needs to leave. The girlfriend needs therapy. The friends need to be blocked and forgotten. And everyone needs to learn that the past is only the past if you leave it there. End scene. Mic drop. I'm out. Verdict, not the asshole for setting boundaries, but also get out of this relationship because it's deader than disco and you both deserve better. Am I the asshole for refusing to cook 2 separate dinners every night just because my family doesn't want to eat what my doctor told me I need to eat? All right, folks, buckle up because we're about to witness what might be the most infuriating display of entitlement I've seen in a long time. We've got a household chef who works full time, comes home and cooks for 4 people every single night, gets diagnosed with a serious kidney condition that requires dietary changes, and somehow she's the one being made to feel unreasonable. Make it make sense. Let me paint you a picture of our writer's life. Every single night, she works a full-time job, comes home and cooks dinner for 4 people. Not some of the time, not when she feels like it. Every night. And in all these years of her slaving away in the kitchen after working all day, has anyone complained? Nope. Has anyone offered to help? Also nope. Has anyone even thought to themselves, hey, maybe I should learn to boil water so this woman can have a night off? Triple nope. But here's where things get real. Our writer gets some news from her doctor that's honestly pretty scary. She's got a condition affecting her kidneys and needs to seriously cut back on sodium and processed food. We're talking fresh ingredients, very little salt, no canned stuff, no deli meat, no processed sauces. The doctor was very clear that if she doesn't change her diet, things are going to get worse. Now, when someone you love gets told by their doctor that they need to make dietary changes or face serious health consequences, what's the normal human response? Support, right? Maybe a how can we help, or we're in this together, or literally any display of basic human decency. Well, not in this house, apparently. Our writer adjusts what she cooks. Same meals mostly, just made differently. Less salt, fresh ingredients instead of jarred sauces, more chicken and fish instead of heavily seasoned red meat. She even says the food is still good, just healthier. And honestly, the stuff she's describing is literally just normal food, like grilled chicken with vegetables is not some bizarre diet food. That's just dinner. Her partner complained on day 3. Day 3. This man couldn't make it through 72 whole hours of eating slightly less salty food before he had to open his mouth and complain. Said the food tastes bland now. Her mom, who also lives with them and also doesn't cook, chimed in that she doesn't see why the whole house has to change their diet because of our writer's issue. I'm sorry, her issue? You mean her potentially life-threatening kidney condition? That issue? The one where if she doesn't follow doctor's orders, things will get worse? That's being dismissed as just an issue? And then they both suggested that our writer just make what she needs for herself and then cook a separate normal dinner for everyone else. Let me repeat that slower for the people in the back. They want this woman who works full time, who already cooks for 4 people every single night, who has never received help or even a thank you, to now cook 2 complete meals because they can't handle eating food with slightly less salt. The audacity, the sheer unmitigated gall. Our writer very reasonably said no. She said she is one person cooking for 4 people every night, and she is not making 2 full meals because nobody wants to eat slightly healthier food. She told them if they don't like what she makes, they are welcome to cook their own dinner. And you know what? Nobody has taken her up on that offer. Shocking, right? It's almost like they don't actually want to cook. They just want to complain about someone else's cooking while doing absolutely nothing themselves. The partner said it's not fair that they have to change what they eat because of something that's our writer's issue. Her sister, the 10-year-old child, is honestly the only one who just eats whatever is put in front of her without complaining. Let that sink in. The literal child has more maturity and grace than 2 fully grown adults. Our writer keeps coming back to the fact that none of them cook. Not once. Not ever. And now they're telling the person who feeds them every single night that what she's making isn't good enough because it has less salt in it. Let's break down how absolutely ridiculous this situation is, shall we? First off, we're talking about salt here. You know what exists? Salt shakers. They sit on tables. You pick them up with your hand and you shake salt onto your food. It's not rocket science. If these grown adults want more salt on their food, they have opposable thumbs and functioning arms. They can add it themselves. This isn't even about cooking a different meal. They literally just want more sodium and are too lazy to even season their own plates. Commenter u/Coco Almonds Rock absolutely nailed it. Open quote. They don't have to change their diet. They can eat whatever they want. However, they are responsible for making it. Close quote. Boom. That's it. That's the whole answer right there. Nobody is forcing anyone to eat anything. Our writer is cooking food she can safely eat. If they want something different, the kitchen is right there. The stove works. Google exists. YouTube has approximately 8 trillion cooking tutorials. Figure it out. But they won't, will they? Because this isn't actually about the food. This is about control and entitlement and the expectation that our writer will continue to sacrifice her own health and well-being to cater to their preferences. Commenter u/deepinternal-2209 brought up something that honestly made my blood boil. Open quote. I can't believe that these people care so little for OP's health. OP, perhaps you can tell them that if they'd rather see you incapacitated on dialysis or dead, you'd be happy to go back to the way you used to cook. Close quote. Exactly, because that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about some trendy diet our writer decided to try. We're talking about medical necessity. The doctor said if she doesn't change her diet, things will get worse. Kidney conditions are no joke. We're potentially talking about dialysis, kidney failure, serious life-altering consequences. And these people are like, yeah, but my chicken doesn't taste as good now. So, are you kidding me? Multiple commenters pointed out the beautiful irony that the 10-year-old is the only one acting like an adult here. Commenter u/Bittermoppet said, open quote, it's amazing to me that the 10-year-old is the only person in that house with the emotional maturity to accept the situation. Close quote. A child, a literal child, has more emotional intelligence than 2 grown adults. The kid just eats what's put in front of her and moves on with her life like a normal person. But the adults, they need to make a whole production about how oppressed they are by having to eat grilled chicken. And can we talk about the it's not fair comment from the partner? It's not fair. You know what's not fair? Working full time and then coming home to cook for people who won't lift a finger to help. That's not fair. You know what else isn't fair? Getting a serious health diagnosis and instead of receiving support from your family, Getting complaints that your life-saving dietary changes are inconvenient for them. That's really not fair. Having to choose between your health and keeping ungrateful people happy? Yeah, that's pretty damn unfair too. But apparently, grilled chicken with vegetables is the real injustice happening here. Give me a break. Several commenters shared that they're in similar situations and found super simple solutions. Commenter slash cybercandy asked, open quote, why can't they just add salt to their food after OP cooks? Season your own plates, it's not that hard. Close quote. It's literally that simple. Our writer could cook the base meal with her required low sodium, and then these people could grab a salt shaker and go to town on their own portions. Add as much salt as your heart desires. Make it a salt lick. Nobody is stopping you. But that would require them to take even the tiniest bit of responsibility for their own preferences, and apparently that's asking too much. Commenter u slash Logan Briscoe dash 1129 shared, open quote, my older son, 22, likes a lot of heat in his food. So he grabs one of our many, many bottles of hot sauce or the Slap Ya Mama seasoning and seasons his own portion. It's not rocket science. Close quote. Thank you. A 22-year-old understands this concept. Why can't our writer's partner and mother figure this out? Let's talk about the absolute nerve of the mother in this situation. Your daughter, who is already doing all the cooking for everyone, gets diagnosed with a kidney condition, and your response is, open quote, why does the whole house have to change because of your issue? Close quote. Ma'am, your daughter is cooking for you, for free, every night, after working all day. And now she needs to make dietary changes for her health, and you're acting like she's personally victimizing you. Where's the maternal instinct? Where's the concern? Where's the, oh my God, my daughter has a kidney condition. How can I support her? Instead, we get, but what about my taste buds? I cannot. And the partner, this is supposed to be someone who loves our writer, right? Someone who wants her to be healthy and alive and around for a long time. But 3 days of slightly less salty food, and he's complaining, he's suggesting she cook 2 meals. He's saying it's not fair to him. Buddy, your partner has a serious health condition and you're worried about whether your chicken has enough salt. Let's talk about priorities here. Let's talk about what kind of partner you're being. Let's talk about how you're supposed to be a team, and you're acting like you've been asked to eat cardboard when really you've just been served food that won't slowly kill your partner. The bar for men is in hell, and this guy still managed to trip over it. Multiple commenters suggested our writer should just stop cooking for everyone except herself and maybe her little sister, since she's not complaining. And honestly, that's exactly what she should do. Commenter who just kind of happened XX said, open quote, if I were OP, I would just start cooking for me and little sister since she's a kid and seems to just appreciate being fed. Husband and mom can cook for themselves. Close quote. Yes, cook for yourself and the one person who isn't acting like an entitled brat. Let the 2 adults figure out how to feed themselves. They want different food? Cool. There's a grocery store. There are recipes online. There's DoorDash. So many options available to them. And you know what would happen? One of 2 things. One, they'd realize that cooking is actually work, and they'd stop complaining and just eat what's put in front of them. 2, they'd actually start cooking for themselves, and our writer would get a break. Win-win either way. Several commenters also pointed out something I think is really important. This diet change is probably good for everyone in the house. Commenter u/anyneat5158 said, open quote, going to a more whole foods type of diet with less processed, packaged, and preservatives would benefit them all. Using aromatics and spices other than salt, the food can still taste really, really good. Close quote, exactly. Our writer isn't cooking prison food here. She's cooking fresh, whole ingredients with chicken, fish, and vegetables. This is literally just healthy eating. This is the kind of diet doctors recommend to everyone. Less processed food, less sodium, more fresh ingredients. That's not some extreme restrictive diet. That's just eating like an adult. The partner and mom are probably eating too much sodium anyway. Most people do because processed foods are loaded with it. Our writer is actually doing them a favor by cooking healthier meals, and they're too stuck in their ways to see it. And if they really truly cannot survive without their heavily salted processed food, again, The kitchen is right there. Nobody is chaining them to the dinner table and forcing them to eat grilled chicken. They have options, they're just too lazy to exercise them. Let's also talk about the sheer workload here. Our writer works full time, then comes home and cooks for 4 people. Who's doing the dishes? Who's doing the grocery shopping? Who's meal planning? I'm willing to bet our writer is handling most, if not all, of that too. So her daily routine is work all day, come home, plan a meal, shop for ingredients, cook for 4 people, clean up, do it all over again the next day, every day, for years, with no help, no breaks, and apparently no appreciation. And now, on top of all that, she's dealing with a medical diagnosis that requires dietary changes. She's probably stressed, probably worried about her health, probably trying to figure out how to navigate this new normal. And instead of getting support, she's getting complaints and demands that she work even harder to accommodate people who won't even add their own salt to their food. The level of selfishness is honestly staggering. Commenter u/Miscore Bobby Doll asked something important. Open quote, "It's crazy that instead of helping you, they want you to work harder. That being said, when you cut salt, did you increase aromatics and other seasoning? Low salt doesn't need to be bland." Close quote. This is a good point. There are so many ways to make food flavorful without salt. Garlic, onions, herbs, spices, citrus, vinegar. The options are endless. And honestly, when you start cooking with fresh ingredients and relying on actual flavors instead of just salt, food often tastes better. But even if our writer's food was a little bland, which I doubt, the solution is still not for her to cook 2 meals. The solution is for everyone to work together to find flavors they like that fit within her dietary restrictions, or for people to season their own portions, or for other people to cook sometimes. The fact that nobody else in this house cooks is wild to me. Our writer's partner has apparently just coasted through life expecting someone else to feed them. Never learned to cook, never offered to help. And the mother, she raised kids, presumably, which usually involves cooking, but now she's just retired from the kitchen forever, and our writer is just supposed to be the house chef for the rest of time? Nope, absolutely not. That's not how this works. Commenter use pilot environmental 46 said, open quote, "OP, the only mistake you've made is cooking for them every night all these years. If I was you, not only would I not be cooking a separate meal, but I would be telling them that you expect them to make their own meals 3 nights a week at least." Close quote. Say it louder for the people in the back. The problem isn't just this current situation. It's the pattern that's been established over years where our writer does all the cooking and everyone else just expects it. That's not sustainable, it's not fair, and it needs to change. Even if our writer didn't have a kidney condition requiring dietary changes, this setup would still be ridiculous. Adults should be able to feed themselves. Partners should share household responsibilities. People who eat food someone else cooked should show some damn appreciation. But our writer does have a kidney condition. She does need to make these changes. And the people around her need to get their heads out of their asses and step up. The comments are full of people sharing stories of family members with dietary restrictions and how they made it work. And you know what the common thread is? Consideration for the other person. Commenter u/Emma the accountant said, open quote, "I love salt and have a condition that needs more in my diet. My husband and son do not. So I don't cook with it to my needs or taste. That's on me when I get to the table." Close quote. Look at that. Someone who needs more salt in their diet manages to handle that themselves without demanding someone cook them a separate meal. Imagine that. Another commenter, ufin704, shared, open quote, "My husband loves food, especially meat. I am vegetarian. He gets all the food he enjoys, and so do I. We take responsibility for our own dietary preferences. If he does make something with meat in it, like chili, he will take some out for me before adding the meat. I like my food more salty. He is sensitive to salt, so I add salt later. It is not that hard and has worked for 26 years." Close quote. 26 years of successfully navigating different dietary needs by being reasonable adults who communicate and compromise. It's almost like that's how relationships are supposed to work. But our writer's partner can't handle 3 days of slightly less salty food without whining. The math ain't mathing. Let's also address something that keeps coming up in the comments. Why is our writer's mom not cooking for her own 10-year-old daughter? The little sister is living there, the mom is living there, and somehow our writer is responsible for feeding this child every night? Commenter u/am cold and am tired asked, open quote, that said, why isn't your mother responsible for preparing meals for her minor child? Excellent question. Mom is sitting there complaining about having to eat healthy food but isn't taking responsibility for feeding her own kid. Make it make sense. If mom wants her daughter to eat differently, mom can cook for her daughter. Problem solved. But that would require mom to actually do something instead of just complaining. So the entitlement of saying, open quote, I don't like what you're cooking for my child and me for free every night. But instead of cooking for my own child myself, I'm going to demand you cook 2 meals. Close quote is just chef's kiss of audacity. Several commenters brought up that our writer might be dealing with some serious parentification or family dysfunction issues. Commenter u/Matridalia said, open quote, mom clearly uses the oldest without caring about her well-being. OP was probably parentified at a young age, and little sister probably is more thoughtful because of mom's crap behavior. Close quote. That's a really good point. This pattern, where our writer does everything and mom does nothing, didn't just appear overnight. There's probably a long history here of our writer being expected to take care of everyone else while her own needs come last. Well, guess what? Her needs can't come last anymore. Her health is on the line. This isn't about preferences or convenience. This is literally about preventing her kidneys from failing. That kind of trumps someone's desire for saltier food, don't you think? The fact that this is even a question, that our writer is being made to feel unreasonable for not wanting to cook 2 meals every night, is absolutely insane. Commenter Kafquaf had a sweet suggestion. Open quote. I think she and the 10-year-old should make their dinner together. It would be good for the kiddo and help OP, but just for the two of them. The two ungrateful adults can cook for themselves. Close quote. I love this. Teaching the sister to cook, spending time together, and only making food for people who actually appreciate it. The two adults can figure out their own situation. And honestly, learning to cook is a valuable life skill. The 10-year-old learning now means she won't grow up to be like her mom or our writer's partner, helpless in the kitchen and demanding someone else do all the work. Multiple commenters also pointed out the obvious solution that keeps getting ignored. They can just add salt to their own food. It's not complicated. Commenter Covert Pudding said, open quote, they can also just buy a salt shaker and use it on OP's perfectly good food once it's on their plate. But they're too lazy for even that. Close quote. Too lazy to pick up a salt shaker. We have reached peak laziness, folks. These people can't even be bothered to season their own plates. They need someone else to do it for them during the cooking process because reaching for the salt shaker is apparently too much effort. I'm exhausted just thinking about the level of learned helplessness on display here. Some commenters suggested our writer might be dealing with some cultural or generational expectations about women cooking. And while that might be true, you know what? We're not in the 1950s anymore. Women work, partners share responsibilities, and nobody should be expected to cook 2 separate meals every night, regardless of gender. The fact that our writer works full-time and then comes home to cook for everyone while her partner presumably does, what exactly? Sits on the couch waiting to be fed? That's not okay, even before you add in the health condition requiring dietary changes. Commenter McBreek asked, open quote, why are you doing all of the cooking? How has this situation developed where you are the family slave? Please tell them to cook their own food. Close quote. Family slave. That's exactly what this is. And our writer needs to quit that job immediately. Here's what I think needs to happen. 1, our writer needs to stop cooking for the partner and mom entirely. Just stop. They want different food? Great, they can make it. Here's a spatula. Have fun. 2, our writer can continue cooking for herself and her little sister if she wants to, since the kid isn't being a brat about it. Or she can teach the sister to cook with her so the kid learns life skills and they share the work. 3, when the partner and mom complain, and they will, our writer needs to hold firm. Open quote, you said you didn't like what I cook? So cook for yourself. The kitchen is right there. Close quote. 4, no arguing, no explaining, no justifying. Just a simple, open quote. I'm not cooking for people who complain about my cooking. Figure it out yourselves. Close quote. 5, and if they try the guilt trip route, our writer can remind them that she has a serious health condition. She followed doctor's orders. They refused to support her, and this is the natural consequence of their actions. Will they whine? Absolutely. Will they try to make her feel guilty? For sure. Will they suddenly discover they're capable of heating up frozen dinners or ordering takeout? You bet. And after a few weeks of having to feed themselves, they'll either realize how much work our writer was doing and appreciate her, or keep being jerks, but at least our writer won't have to cook for them anymore. Commenter U Pomeranian 18 laid it out perfectly. Open quote, cook a healthy meal for yourself and your sister who hasn't complained, if you feel like it. Do not cook for anyone else. This is the only way they will stop their insane entitlement. Be firm and calm. When they ask where their food is, tell them they said it was too bland, so you figured they'd make else for themselves. Uh, Close quote. This is the way. Calm, firm boundaries. No extra explanations needed. They said they didn't like the food, so they can make their own. End of discussion. Several commenters who are actually on dialysis chimed in to warn our writer how serious this is. Commenter U Detective Resident 391 said, open quote, I'm on dialysis. Trust me, you do not want to get to that point. Close quote. They shared resources for renal-friendly diets and emphasized that our writer needs to focus on her health. And then they said something that really hit home. Open quote. Point being, focus on preparing food for your dietary specifications. If the rest of them don't like it, tell them they can go get a fucking peanut butter and jelly sandwich or shut the hell up. Close quote. From someone who knows firsthand how serious kidney conditions can get, the message is clear. Our writer's health comes first. Period. Anyone who doesn't like it can figure out their own meals. This isn't about being petty or punishing people. This is about survival. This is about preventing a serious medical condition from getting worse. This is about our writer literally following doctor's orders to protect her kidneys. And if her partner and mom can't understand that, if they can't put aside their preference for saltier food to support someone they supposedly love, then they don't deserve to have meals cooked for them anyway. The selfishness on display here is genuinely shocking. These are people who claim to care about our writer, but when faced with a minor inconvenience and eating healthy food is not a hardship, let's be real, they immediately make it about themselves and their wants. Not, how can we support you through this health challenge? Let's find recipes we all enjoy that fit your dietary needs. What can we do to help make this transition easier? Just, open quote, this is inconvenient for ME, so you need to work harder. Close quote. Nope. Hard pass. Not acceptable. Commenter U Stonehenge summed up the absurdity perfectly. Open quote. OP's situation, which is the other people, 2 grown fucking adults, essentially wanting 2 whole meals made is another matter entirely. Close quote. 2. Grown adults who can't figure out how to feed themselves, who expect one person to work full-time and cook 2 complete meals every night, who care more about their taste preferences than someone's literal health. It's embarrassing, honestly. I'd be ashamed to admit I was this helpless and selfish. And you know what the saddest part is? Our writer is asking if she's the asshole. This woman works full-time, cooks for everyone every night, gets a serious health diagnosis, makes necessary dietary changes, refuses to cook 2 meals, is wondering if she's being unreasonable. That's how much these people have messed with her head. That's how much they've normalized their entitlement and her overworking. She's literally following doctor's orders to save her health, and she's questioning whether she's wrong for not working even harder to please people who won't lift a finger to help themselves. It makes me so angry on her behalf. So let me be very clear, not the asshole, not even a little bit, not even 0.001%. Our writer works full-time, cooks for 4 people every night, got a serious medical diagnosis requiring dietary changes, adjusted her cooking to follow doctor's orders, is still making healthy, normal food, not weird diet food, offered for others to cook their own meals if they don't like hers. Set a completely reasonable boundary about not cooking 2 meals. The partner and mom don't cook at all, complain about free meals, show zero concern for our writer's health, demand she work even harder to accommodate them, are too lazy to even add their own salt, dismiss a serious medical condition as an issue, act more entitled than the literal 10-year-old. The math is mathing, and it's not looking good for those two. Let's also talk about what this behavior says about these relationships. Your partner is supposed to be your teammate, your supporter, the person who has your back when things get hard. This man couldn't even support his partner through a dietary change for her health for 3 days without complaining. What happens when things get really hard? What happens if our writer's condition worsens? What happens if she needs more serious medical intervention? Is this partner going to step up, or is he going to complain that her dialysis appointments are inconvenient for him? And the mom, a mother is supposed to care about her child's well-being. Our writer is her daughter. She has a health condition, and mom's response is to complain about having to eat healthier food. These relationships are broken. The dynamic is broken, and our writer deserves so much better. She deserves a partner who says, open quote, "Your health is the priority. Let's figure this out together," close quote, and actually means it. She deserves a mother who says, open quote, "I'm worried about you. What can I do to help?" close quote, and shows up. She deserves people who appreciate the work she does and don't take it for granted. She deserves to not have to choose between her health and keeping ungrateful people happy. Commenter, you/really just don't nailed it. Open quote, "This is not even up for debate. First, it for your health. Second, you cook, you decide. In my house, that is always the rule." Close quote. Period. End of story. The person doing the cooking gets to decide what to cook. If you don't like it, you're free to cook something else. But you don't get to complain about free food prepared by someone else, and you definitely don't get to demand they make you a whole separate meal. That's not how any of this works. So my verdict? Our writer is absolutely, positively, 100% not the asshole. She should stop cooking for the partner and mom immediately. Let them figure out their own meals for a while. Let them see how much work it actually is. Let them realize what they've been taking for granted. And if they can't manage basic appreciation and support for someone dealing with a serious health condition, then they don't deserve to have meals cooked for them at all. Our writer needs to protect her health, set firm boundaries, and stop setting herself on fire to keep other people warm. Her kidneys are more important than anyone's preference for salty food. Full stop. Cook for yourself. Maybe cook for your sweet little sister who isn't acting like an entitled brat. Let the two adults figure out how to feed themselves like the grown people they claim to be. And remember, you are not a restaurant. You are not a servant. You are not responsible for catering to everyone else's preferences while sacrificing your own health. You're a person with a serious medical condition who deserves support, not complaints. Never forget that. Not the asshole. And anyone who says otherwise needs to spend a week cooking for 4 ungrateful people every night while dealing with a health condition and see how they feel about it. Am I the asshole for wanting my Spanish teacher to stop calling me by the Spanish version of my name? All right, folks, buckle the hell up because we're about to dive deep into what might be the most petty Spanish class drama I've encountered in a hot minute. And when I say petty, I mean we're talking about a high schooler named John Paul, who goes by JP, having an absolute meltdown because his Spanish teacher has the audacity to, wait for it, pronounce his initials in Spanish class, while teaching Spanish. I'm not even kidding right now. So let's break this down piece by piece because this is genuinely wild, and the comment section is literally tearing itself apart over whether this is normal or the most disrespectful thing a teacher has ever done. Our writer goes by JP. Simple enough, right? 2 letters, J and P. Easy peasy. But here's where things get spicy. In his Spanish class, his teacher calls him Jota Pe, which, side note, should actually be spelled Jota Pe. But our writer apparently hasn't been paying enough attention in class to know how to spell it correctly, which is honestly kind of hilarious given the circumstances. Why does the teacher do this? Because in Spanish, the letter J is pronounced Jota, and the letter P is pronounced pe. So the teacher is literally just saying JP in Spanish class, where they speak Spanish. When the teacher first dropped the Jota Pe on day one, our writer thought it was funny and laughed along with the class. Cute moment, right? Everyone has a chuckle, teacher makes a little joke, we move on with our lives. Nope. Plot twist, the teacher kept using it because apparently in this Spanish class, the teacher uses Spanish. Shocking, I know. So our writer, clearly bothered by this egregious violation of his checks notes, nickname rights, went to talk to the teacher after class. He politely asked if the teacher could please call him JP instead. And here's where people are losing their minds. The teacher said no. The teacher's reasoning? This is Spanish class, and Jota Pe is the Spanish equivalent of your name. I'm not calling you rude words, I'm just translating the pronunciation of your two-letter English name to Spanish. And honestly, the teacher has a point, but our writer is big mad about it. He's asking if he's the asshole for not wanting his teacher to keep calling him Jota Pe, even though it's harmless. He just doesn't like it and prefers JP. And oh yeah, he lives in the USA, in case that matters. Spoiler alert to him, it apparently does, based on that pointed little addition. Now, here's where this gets really interesting because the comment section is absolutely divided and it's revealing some wild cultural differences in how language classes are taught. Commenter You, the Fisherman's Wife 22 came in hot with the reality check. These comments are so weird. Everyone I have ever met in the States had Spanish and had a Spanish name in said class. Every state, every friend, every family member. And you know what? They're right. A bunch of people started chiming in about how having a Spanish, French, German name in language class is literally standard practice in American schools and has been for decades. Commenter U/Gardenbug added, right? In French class, we all had to pick a French name to go by. It didn't have to be an exact match so we could choose. I'm wondering if the teacher is just doing the name change instead of having kids pick. Oh, this is interesting. So it's not even unusual. It's literally a teaching method used across the country in foreign language classes. It's meant to create immersion and make students more comfortable speaking in another language. Commenter You Dennis Kidder took it even further. I wonder if the kid refused to choose a name, and so the teacher was forced to choose for him. We had a few who tried that over the years, took Spanish every year from first grade. The teacher just chose a name for them. This kid clearly thinks he is special and should get his special English nickname instead of using a Spanish name, so I wouldn't be surprised if he refused to choose a name for Spanish class. Oh, snap. Now we're getting to the real tea. Because you know what our writer conveniently left out of his little story? Whether or not everyone else in the class also has a Spanish name. Based on the comments and how common this practice is, I'm willing to bet my entire coffee budget that yes, everyone in that class has a Spanish name they go by during class. But some people thought this was absolutely unacceptable. Commenter One Heart One Total Eclipse, who says they're Hispanic and taught ESL at a completely different take. I'm Hispanic, and the thought of people being as different names due to the language seems ignorant to me. Your name is John Paul. If you were to move to a Spanish-speaking country, your name would still be John Paul. You're completely right in wanting to be referred to by your name. I taught ESL, and I'm pretty sure I would have been fired in a blink if I made my students pick an English name instead of theirs. There's other ways to learn names common in the culture, like role-playing exercises. This is actually a really valid point. When you move to another country, you don't change your name. If someone named Juan moves to the US and takes an English class, we don't just start calling him John. That would be weird and kind of disrespectful. But commenter U/OO Cat0U pushed back on this comparison. ESL is different because they are already immersed in English or whatever language, IDK what country you're teaching English in. It's already more difficult. People are already mispronouncing their names in everyday life. Okay, so this is where it gets nuanced. The ESL comparison doesn't really work because those students are living in an English-speaking country. They're already drowning in English immersion 24/7. A kid taking Spanish class for 45 minutes a day in suburban America? Not quite the same level of immersion, is it? The name thing in language classes is apparently supposed to be a mental trigger, a way to help students switch their brains into Spanish mode when they walk into that classroom. Does it actually work? I have no idea. I'm not a linguist or a teacher, but a lot of teachers seem to think it does. Commenter u/Megan Shadow weighed in with a teacher's perspective. The name thing is seen as a tool, a mental crowbar to help students get out of the rut of their accustomed language/mindset. It did help me. I could converse with Elise in French class pretty easily, but as soon as I called her Elizabeth, I'd automatically drop back to the English I'd been using to talk to her in for years. Interesting. So there might actually be some pedagogical reasoning behind this, and it's not just teachers being weird for the sake of being weird. But here's what absolutely sent me. People started sharing their own Spanish class names, and some of them are wild. Commenter use economist note 745. Mao. Every high school Spanish class I've even been in, we were assigned Spanish names. Mine was Camila. Commenter u/malicious tacos. I always had a banana with me, so my Spanish teacher dubbed me Chiquita. Chiquita, like the banana brand. I'm deceased. This teacher just looked at a student, saw they had a banana, and said, "You know what? You're a banana now. That's your name." Absolutely unhinged, and I love it. Commenter /Smoke is Red shared, "My homeboy Jamel was Jose Maria, and he hated it. We still call him that 25 years later, lol." 25 years. This man has been carrying his Spanish class name for a quarter century because his friends won't let it go. That's both hilarious and slightly traumatic. But the absolute best comment came from commenter used on Node 8938. "My husband chose Zorro. This went over like a lead balloon with the teacher." Zorro. This man really walked into Spanish class and said, "I'm going to be a masked vigilante." And the teacher just had to deal with it. The absolute confidence, the audacity. I'm obsessed. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room that a lot of people brought up. Our writer is being kind of precious about this, isn't he? Like, it's one class for maybe an hour a day where everyone probably has a Spanish name, and he's making a federal case out of it because he doesn't like how his initials sound in Spanish. Commenter Uviolu nailed it. I would understand if OP had an ethnic name that always gets butchered because people develop sensitivities around that over time. But John Paul? Who is getting precious over John Paul not being JP a few hours a week? Exactly. This isn't some deeply personal cultural name that's being disrespected. This isn't even his actual name. It's a nickname. He's out here fighting for his right to be called by his English initials in Spanish class instead of just rolling with it like apparently everyone else in the class is doing. And can we talk about the solutions people offered? Because there were so many reasonable compromises that our writer could have proposed, but apparently didn't. Commenter u/Ferrain82 suggested, "Tell him to call you Juan then. It's the Spanish version of your name. I don't see the problem here." Or commenter Franklin T2, or Juan Pablo. Juan Pablo, that's actually a super common and awesome name. The racing driver Juan Pablo Montoya. The Bachelor's Juan Pablo. It's got a great ring to it, and it's the literal Spanish translation of his actual name, John Paul, not just his nickname. Commenter Unclethan even laid out how easy this could have been. "I don't like Jota Pe. Can you call me Juan Pablo instead?" Would have solved this whole thing. But no, our writer had to dig in his heels and insist on being called by his English nickname in Spanish class because America? Freedom? I honestly don't know what the reasoning is here. And speaking of America, can we address the absolutely wild revelation that this whole foreign language names and language class thing is apparently a super American phenomenon that the rest of the world finds completely baffling? Commenter u/Slack Turquoise Dinosaur from the UK said, "America is wild, LMAO. I've never heard of this happening in the UK. I studied German from the ages of 12 to 22, year 8, university. And if any of my teachers insisted on everyone using a German name instead of their real name, I think we'd just laugh in their faces." Multiple people from Canada, the UK, various European countries, all chiming in like, "What the hell is this? We never did this. This is bizarre." Commenter U. Cochran asked, "This is eye-opening to me. Is this part of US culture? I have had many language classes, and never in my life have I had a pretend English, French, German name for that class. So apparently this is some weird American educational tradition that we've all just accepted as normal, and the rest of the world is looking at us like we've lost our minds. Which fair. Although commenter u slash the blonde one from the UK said, Brit here, it's happened to me. We were given French names in our French class and Russian names in our Russian class. I quite liked having a foreign alter ego. So it's not exclusively American, but it seems way more common here. Interesting. But let's get back to the heart of the matter. Is the teacher an asshole for refusing to call our writer by his preferred name, nickname? This is where I'm genuinely torn, because on one hand, respecting what people want to be called is important. Names matter. How people identify matters. We don't dead name trans people. We don't insist on using someone's full legal name if they go by a nickname. We respect people's preferences. Commenter U for Vox's sake made this exact point. Respectfully disagree. I don't like it when you call me that. Please use my name should always be respected. And you know what? In most contexts, I'd agree 100%. If someone says, hey, I don't like being called that, you stop. End of story. It's basic human decency and respect. But, and this is a big but, context matters. And the context here is a Spanish class where apparently the standard practice is for everyone to use Spanish names. It's not the teacher singling out our writer and giving him a mean nickname. It's not bullying. It's not harassment. It's literally just the teaching method being applied equally to everyone. Commenter u slash funny bony oyo laid it out. He's not name calling or making up a random nickname. He is literally doing what all foreign language teachers in the US do, which is either do a Spanish slash fresh slash etc. equivalent of your name, or you pick a foreign name. Everyone endures the same dumb rite of passage. Not a big deal. Everyone is dealing with a different version of their name in language class. Build a little resilience and move on. Everyone is way too easily butthurt these days. Harsh? Maybe, but also kind of true. Like, if literally everyone else in the class is dealing with having a Spanish name and our writer is the only one throwing a fit about it, that's kind of telling. Several commenters pointed out that this could actually be a great teaching moment. Commenter u slash o 0 kati 0 said, now, for OP to say it bothers them is probably a good teaching moment about how others are feeling who go into a new country. My name is probably one of the most common in the entire world, but it gets mispronounced in other languages whenever I travel. Oh, damn. That's actually really insightful. Maybe feeling uncomfortable with how your name sounds in another language is exactly the kind of empathy building experience that makes you a better global citizen. Maybe it helps you understand what immigrants and people with foreign names go through every single day when people butcher their names or insist on giving them easier English nicknames. But on the flip side, several people pointed out that insisting on using Spanish names in class is actually kind of backwards from how language actually works in the real world. Commenter use Whispering Wolf nailed it. NTA. When speaking another language, you generally don't change the name of the person you're speaking to unless they want you to. If a guy named Juan goes to English class, they're not going to call him John without his say-so. This is true. In actual practice, when you speak to someone in another language, you use their actual name, just with the pronunciation adjusted to fit the phonetics of the language you're speaking. You don't just wholesale replace it with a different name. Commenter use helicopter no 3534, who lived in Mexico, confirmed, this I've lived in Mexico and literally noon translated English names into Spanish. They just called the person by their name. So the teaching method doesn't actually reflect real world language use, which kind of undermines the whole this is for immersion and learning argument. Now let's talk about some of the absolutely unhinged suggestions people made in the comments. Commenter u slash informal insurance 63 said, refuse to respond when the teacher uses the equivalent. Make a polite big deal out of it. Oh, did you mean me? That's not my name. Call me by my name when you want my attention, please. If they continue to refuse, speak to admin. Class? That's going to go well. I'm sure that won't torpedo this kid's grade or relationship with the teacher at all. Commenter use office water cooler dropped a Star Trek quote. Dr. Pulaski, Data, look at this. Data. Data. What? My name. It is pronounced data. What's the difference? One is my name, the other is not. I mean, iconic quote, and the point stands. One is your name and one is not. But also, Data is an android who doesn't experience human emotions or social norms, so maybe not the best role model for how to navigate a high school Spanish class. Some people tried to find middle ground. Commenter u/capbb suggested Natch. Language teachers are often quirky about using translated versions of names, but if it annoys you, maybe you guys could come to a compromise. Is there another nickname that sounds a little nicer in Spanish that you could go by only in that class? This is actually the most reasonable take I've seen. Nobody's the asshole, but maybe there's a compromise to be found. Pick a different Spanish name that sounds cool. Own it for the duration of the class. Move on with your life. But you know what really gets me? Our writer's pronunciation of how the teacher says his name. He wrote it as Jota Pe, which is so wrong it's actually funny. It should be Jota Pe, with the J making an H sound, like in Spanish. The fact that he's been in this class long enough to be annoyed by this, but hasn't actually learned how to spell it correctly, tells me he's probably not paying super close attention in class anyway. Commenter u/Vegas by way of LA pointed this out. The way he phonetically spelled out the letter P makes me think he isn't very good in Spanish. When reciting the alphabet, it is pronounced pe and not pe. Boom. Roasted. Maybe if our writer spent less time being pressed about his nickname and more time actually learning Spanish, he'd be doing better in class. Let's also talk about the comment from u/Lemuel, who pointed out, bro, he's not using the Spanish version of your name. He's using the Spanish pronunciation of the letter. If he called you Juan Pablo, he would be using the Spanish version of your name. This is actually a really important distinction. The teacher isn't even translating his name. He's just pronouncing his initials in Spanish, which is somehow even more ridiculous to be upset about. Like, imagine if someone went to France and got mad that people pronounce DVD as day, they, day instead of DVD. That's literally what's happening here. Letters are pronounced differently in different languages. That's how language works. I also love all the people who shared their own Spanish class experiences. Commenter //Orastea J said, everyone in Spanish class gets a Spanish name. I hated mine, but whatever. If you don't like the Spanish name they gave you, pick something else. With a name like John Paul, that should be a pretty easy. Hola Juanito. I hated mine, but whatever is such a perfect encapsulation of the appropriate response to this situation. Like, yeah, it might be annoying, it might feel weird, but it's one class and it's not actually hurting you. Get over it. Although I will say, commenter use Missile Boy 8284 had the best suggestion. If OP was really thinking this through, he would go with Juan Pablo and tell everyone that they can call him El Papa for short. El Papa, the Pope. This kid's name is literally John Paul, like the Pope, and he could absolutely lean into that and become the Pope of his Spanish class. What a missed opportunity. Some commenters brought up an interesting point about whether this would fly with other types of names. Commenter U separate candle 5228 said, I don't understand why everyone is like, be okay with it, because that's just how it is. If Alejandro was being called Alexander every day in English class, then everyone would understand why he is upset. This is actually a fair point. If a student named Alejandro was in English class and the teacher insisted on calling him Alexander against his wishes, people would probably be upset about that. So why is it different when it's reversed? I think the difference is that Alejandro is his actual name, whereas JP is just a nickname for John Paul. Also, English class in America doesn't typically operate with the same immersion through naming teaching method that foreign language classes do. But the point about double standards is worth considering. Now, let's talk about what I think is really going on here, which several commenters picked up on. Commenter u/puzzleheaded self 428 said, unpopular opinion that will probably get downvoted, but OP needs to chill out in my opinion. I think teens who will find the most success in life would laugh this off and embrace it as a funny joke. NTA, but this reads as so sensitive and lame. The teacher is TA for not respecting OP's wishes when they asked for it to stop, but OP needs to learn to let stuff like this roll of their back or even to play along. So sensitive and lame might be harsh, but there's something to this. Our writer is in high school. This is the time when everything feels like a huge deal and you're hypersensitive to anything that might make you stand out or seem different or uncool. The idea of being called Jota Pe in front of your classmates probably feels mortifying when you're 15 or 16. But like, it's really not that deep. It's Spanish class. Everyone else has a weird Spanish name too. Nobody actually cares. 10 years from now, this will be a funny story, not a traumatic memory. Commenter used delusional champion got to the heart of it. I agree. I'm assuming OP is young and has confused being stubbornly ignorant with being an American patriot. There it is. The I live in the USA comment at the end of the original post wasn't just context, it was a statement. It was our writer's way of saying, this is America and we speak English, and how dare this teacher make me use Spanish in Spanish class. There's this weird undercurrent of this is America, speak English energy to the whole thing that makes me uncomfortable. Like, you chose to take Spanish class, my dude. Nobody forced you. If you don't want to engage with the language and culture, there are other electives available. Several commenters from Spanish-speaking backgrounds weighed in on how weird and kind of offensive this whole translate everyone's names thing is. Commenter U1 Heart 1 Total Eclipse said it beautifully. Your name is John Paul. If you were to move to a Spanish-speaking country, your name would still be John Paul. You're completely right in wanting to be referred to by your name. And that's true. Names are deeply personal. They're tied to our identity, our culture, our family. Changing them, even temporarily, even just for a class, can feel wrong. But then again, commenter you / the real Billy Shakes countered, what are you talking about? I lived in Mexico for a year and everyone there called me by the Spanish version of my name. No one used the English except my waiter one time. So even that argument falls apart because apparently in actual Spanish-speaking countries, people do use the Spanish version of English names sometimes. So maybe the teacher's method is actually more authentic than people think. At this point, I'm going in circles, which honestly reflects how divided the comments are. Some people think the teacher's a disrespectful asshole. Some people think our writer is a whiny baby. Some people think nobody's the asshole, and this is just a miscommunication. Let me share a few more gems from the comments before we get to the verdict. Commenter U/Chingados said, this kid should have picked Inigo Montoya. Missed opportunity there, Inigo Montoya. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. If you're going to have a Spanish name for class, why not? Go full Princess Bride? Missed opportunity indeed. Commenter U/I Knew Philosophy shared, my middle school Spanish teacher named the desks. And no matter who you were, if you sat in the front right desk, you were Juan. If you were in the desk at the middle of the room, you were Lucia. If you were in the back left, you were Pablo. This is simultaneously the most chaotic and most hilarious teaching method I've ever heard of. Just name the furniture, and whoever sits there inherits the name. I kind of love it. Commenter You Jammies on My Hammies observed, I knew a John Paul or JP, as they prefer, when I was in school, and he was as insufferable as this one. Must be the named after the Pope thing, or they really love those initials. Shots fired. Maybe there's something about being named John Paul that makes you precious about your initials. Scientific research needed. And commenter U Written the Stars warned, it's the J name. Boys whose names start with J will ruin your life. As someone who has dated multiple J name boys, I feel this in my soul. Jake, Josh, Jordan, Jason. They're all chaos demons. Maybe our writer is just fulfilling his J name destiny. Okay, let's get real for a second. Here's what I think is happening. Our writer is a teenager who's uncomfortable with standing out. Being called Jota Pe, or Jota Pe if he'd actually learned the proper spelling, makes him feel singled out, even though everyone else in the class probably also has Spanish names. He asked the teacher to stop. The teacher said no, and now he's dug in his heels because teenagers are fundamentally incapable of backing down once they've taken a position. The teacher is using a common, if somewhat dated and arguably culturally sensitive, teaching method that's been used in American foreign language classes for decades. He's not trying to be disrespectful, he's trying to create immersion. But he's also being stubborn by refusing to find any kind of compromise with a student who's clearly uncomfortable. Neither of them is communicating effectively. Our writer could have suggested alternative Spanish names: Juan, Juan Pablo, literally anything else. The teacher could have recognized that while the method works for most students, it's okay to make accommodations for students who are genuinely uncomfortable. Instead, they're locked in a weird power struggle over two letters. Here's my take. In the grand scheme of things, this is such a minor issue. It's one class. It's a few hours a week. It's literally just how your initials are pronounced in another language. There are so many bigger problems in the world, in school, in life. That said, when someone tells you they're uncomfortable with what you're calling them, you should listen. Even if you think they're being ridiculous, even if it's just for class, even if everyone else is fine with it, people's comfort and sense of identity matter. So here's my verdict. The writer is not the asshole for asking the teacher to use his preferred name. Everyone has the right to express their preferences about what they're called, but he's kind of being a baby about it. It's Spanish class. Everyone has Spanish names. This is normal. The teacher isn't being malicious. And honestly, Jota Pe isn't even that bad of a nickname. Juan Pablo would be infinitely cooler, but our writer seems too stubborn to even consider that compromise. The teacher is also kind of an asshole for completely refusing to budge or find any middle ground. A good teacher recognizes when a teaching method isn't working for a particular student and adapts. And insisting on something that's making a student uncomfortable, even if it's standard practice, isn't great pedagogy. So my final verdict, ESH, everyone sucks here, but like in a very low stakes, high school drama kind of way. The writer needs to chill out, pick a cool Spanish name. I'm voting for Inigo Montoya or El Papa, and recognize that this is a temporary situation in one class that won't matter at all in 5 years. The teacher needs to recognize that while immersion is great, respecting students' comfort levels is also important, and maybe offer for some alternative Spanish names as a compromise. And everyone in the comments needs to calm down because Jesus Christ, people are acting like this is a human rights violation when it's really just a slightly annoying teaching method in a high school Spanish class. Final thoughts. If you're reading this and you're in a similar situation, whether you're a student uncomfortable with your language class name or a teacher using this method, just talk to each other. Find a compromise. Be flexible. Show respect. It's not that hard. And to our writer specifically, Juan Pablo is a sick name. Own it. Rock it. Maybe even start going by it outside of Spanish class. 10 years from now, when you're filling out job applications and networking, Juan Pablo is going to sound way more interesting and memorable than JP. Trust me on this one. Now, everybody go practice your Spanish conjugations and stop fighting about pronunciation on Reddit. Class dismissed, not the asshole for wanting to be called by his preferred name, but definitely being dramatic about the whole thing. Teacher should compromise. End of story.